So the other day I was editing this video for TT Artisan and I was putting some photos in the video, and I was asking myself, how can I make these photos just like slightly more visually appealing and just a little bit more interesting, instead of just having a photo like on a white background. You know, what can I do? So I was just like messing around in Lightroom, and I just discovered this really cool way to add like film retro borders to the photos in Lightroom. It's really easy to do. It's 4 sliders, and if you don't have Lightroom, you can download Lightroom Mobile for free. It's just a lot easier to do it this way than having to go into Photoshop, finding the border, importing it to Photoshop, merging the layers, doing this, doing that. It's just too much work for such a simple thing, and you can do it for cheaper or free if you have the mobile app, and it's just a lot easier to do. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So we're going to start off with this raw photo right here that I took in Long Beach, and I'm just going to throw one of my presets. In this case, I really like Portrait 400, so I'm going to use my Portrait 400 preset to just give it a little bit more of a filmic look. Don't even ask me how I figured this out. I was just editing one night, creative juices were flowing, and I just came across this really easy way. So it all happens in the vignette slider. I'm going to start off by taking the vignette and bringing it down to 80. You're going to shift your midpoint to 0. You're going to shift your roundness to 100, and that is your border. Now the last part, which is the feather, is kind of up to you. You can slide it to 0 and just get like these really well defined, you know, sharp, clean edges. I typically like it at 10, which is not a crazy big difference, but they're just a little bit softer, so it kind of looks like a film scan. And that's it. Sometimes I'll do like 40 just to give it like a little bit more of a faded look, but as you fade it, you can see that you'll be able to see through, you know, the border, so you'll see like the image. That's kind of why I like to stay around 10, is because then it's less transparent and just overall looks like, you know, a solid border. So here's another photo that I took recently, and I just want to show you that if you put it on photos that have like darker edges that look closer to black, that sometimes it doesn't always look right. So like if I slide this down to 80, you can kind of see like the border gets a little bit lost in the photo. Now that depends, you know, if you put the feather down to 0, you can see it better, but even in this corner right here, it's still a little lost. So that's kind of why I like it to be at 50 in this one. But again, it's up to you, and you're not going to be submitting these to clients or like newspapers and such, so it's all just for yourself or Instagram, so it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but I like the way it looks like this even with the feather at 50. What's also really cool is that it works pretty well for black and white photos, and especially on black and white, it really just gives it that like vintage look. So here's a photo I took in Oceanside, California, and if you just slide that slider to the right, so instead of going -80, you're going positive. So you can go all the way to 80, but I don't like how thick it looks here, so I'm gonna go something towards like 30. And you can see it just gives like this faded like vintage look. Again, it's getting kind of lost up here in the sky because the sky is pretty white, but it just looks a lot cooler than if it was just blank. And then this right here is just another example of a black and white photo, but this time with a black border, and you can see that, you know, there's no like really high or low exposures around the photo, so the black border comes out pretty well. And yeah, I really like that. And if you compare it to having no border, like it's still good, but I think it's just a little bit more artistic if it has the border, especially if you're showing your photos on YouTube or on Instagram. I don't know, it just adds like another dimension to the photo that makes it look cool. Okay, so if you want to make your life easy, you can actually make this into a preset, and the way to do that is to set up your vignette. So again, we're just going to do all the settings that I talked about. I'm just doing this really quickly so you can see, and then you're going to basically go up to your presets. You're going to save it. You can save it as black border, you know, make a new group, hit save. I already made one, so I'm just going to replace it, whatever. And then when you take off, you know, all the edits, and then you go back into your presets, you can choose black border, and there it is. So that's like an easy way to kind of get this thing done without having to always mess around with the sliders. Like I said, guys, this is not going to be something you're probably going to do to your professional work or submit to a magazine. This is just like for your own personal stuff, Instagram stories, you know, let's say you're gonna print some 5x7 prints of like some family photos or your vacation to Yosemite National Park, whatever. It's just a cool way to add, you know, a little flair, a little extra vintage look to your photos. If you ended up liking the portrait preset, it's on my website, and there's some free presets on there too if you want to give those a go. All the support goes back into making these videos sick for you, so you guys can have a good time watching some YouTube on a rainy day. Maybe even a cold day. I don't know where you live. If you guys like how I came up with this border, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see future videos, don't forget to hit subscribe. Get out there, take some photos, have some fun, and I'll see you guys in the next video.